What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Gen Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Schultz. A lot of DC stuff came out recently. James Gunn has been talking. I feel like putting up that clip from Ron Burgundy. Sit out. Stop talking for a while. We're gonna talk about all the stuff that James Gunn was talking about today, recently, regarding Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and some Clayface that he also shared some news about. And yeah, so there's a lot of DC stuff. Let's talk about it. What did James Gunn say lately that has us sort of concerned, not too concerned? What's going on with James Gunn?
Yeah, I feel like I need, I don't know if you remember, if you folks know Kevin Harlan. He's an NBA announcer. He had one where he likes to go crazy, and he had one talking about somebody that was shooting a lot of shots and was feeling it. And he basically started yelling, with every chamber filled tonight. And that's what I feel like James Gunn has got, man. His gun is just his gun, pun intended. He just firing right now, because gets to talk about Superman, but you get James Gunn talking and stuff comes out. And so he wound up talking about Batman. There's a lot of Batman stuff going around right now. He talked about DCU Batman. He talked about Reeves Batman. Started talking about Wonder Woman, and he started talking about Marvel. Then there was stuff going on about the Snyderverse. He covered it. We're gonna try to get you through everything. But I wanted to actually start with Superman because that's the project at hand. And he added a nugget, and I just wanted your reaction to it. He was talking about trying to settle on this kind of the strength, the level of strength and power he wanted to assign to his Superman. And this is what I mean by Superman is this polarizing character, because I think this is actually a real question for people. He said his Superman, quote, is not a planet level power. He said he's vulnerable and he can be beat, end quote. And you can definitely see that, right? From the very first shot of him we got in the teaser, it's Superman bloodied lying in the snow. There has been this drumbeat of vulnerability that has been present in all of the trailers. I want to get your reaction to that. How do you feel? Because we've seen different versions of this. I would probably say the Cavill Superman might be the strongest one we've seen in live action. He seemed like he could take truly epic levels of damage and walk away from it. Reeves was pretty strong, but obviously they would then render him powerless with the kryptonite choices and the getting drunk on the rock and Superman 3 and all that sort of stuff.
Best part of Superman 3.
Yeah, no doubt. Brandon Routh, he seemed a little softer at points, but then would do a couple epic things. So this has definitely been a real debate. And I'm curious as to what your reaction is to Gunn's choice to make Superman, I don't want to say powered down, but powered to a level where he is not so far and above the field.
I mean, when you look at the trailer, you see him sort of stopping buildings from falling, So for me, I don't think it was necessary for him to say something like that. Because it's Superman and he's fighting, as we'll see, perhaps a clone of him who is just as powerful. So it's not unbelievable to me or to Superman fans for him to get beaten up, right? So I don't think I'll see or necessarily feel the difference in his power level based on the stuff that he's going to be doing in this movie. But we'll see. I haven't seen that sort of level of, obviously, yeah, we see him beat up, but he was fighting somebody that was probably at his level, perhaps even more. Who knows? But some of the feats that he's pulling off, fighting this big kaiju and standing toe to toe, I mean, that's Superman stuff. So It doesn't look any different than what I've seen in the past. Other than, we've seen Henry Cavill and some of these other guys do fantastic stuff, but I don't think it was necessary for him to say or to fill us in on that sort of thing.
It's just an interesting thought because I think it clearly helps the narrative of a story, because we've talked about this so many times, right? When you make Superman, the challenge of Superman is that he is largely invulnerable. Therefore, so many stories resort to the cheat code of either kryptonite him immediately or some kind of gimmick to effectively sideline him to prevent him from dominating whatever your set piece is. We see that in animated a ton, right? So in some senses, by simply saying his level of power is not so vast that he, is basically impervious, that helps you tell a story. It helps create more foes that are believable for him. The concern I would have is you now have to be consistent, I think. If you do this, so like let's say they were to introduce Darkseid down the road as an obvious example, you probably don't have access anymore to the scene in the animated series where Superman basically is revealing, I'm holding back all the time. You no longer can do that in the Gunverse because you basically said he doesn't have that in the playbook. And that's something where you're like, that's one of my favorite Superman scenes of all time. And this Superman can't get to that level. So then if down the road I see him kicking Darkseid's ass one-on-one, I'm going to be suspicious because I'm going to be like, wait a minute now. Darkseid ought to be more powerful than this Superman based upon what you just told me.
I think he can fix that later on, because if he's following All-Star Superman, in All-Star Superman, I think he's exposed to the sun and becomes more powerful.
Until he dies, where he's dying, but he's getting stronger, right? Yeah.
So who knows, this is, I guess the more time he spends on Earth absorbing the radiation, he gets more powerful. I don't know. But again, him saying that, I don't see, I'm assuming he was answering a question about his power level, and
yes,
he was mentioning that.
Absolutely. Like I said, I do think it helps the character side of storytelling, because if you're going to show shots of Lois Lane concerned, or you're going to show shots of disbelief on the part of allies or protagonists that like Superman is getting beat up, those are not believable if Superman's too powerful. It's only believable if there's evidence in a track record that he can be injured, slowed, that sort of thing. So again, I'm not saying it's the wrong choice. I'm simply pointing out this is an interesting choice, and let's see how he uses that in the context of the story.
For me, I've always looked forward to not necessarily witness his strength or see his strength in all his glory and anything like that. Is, for me, Superman is all about the feats that he performed to save other people. Mm-hmm. And for me, that makes him more like Superman, because we've seen people like Superman, like the Sentry, he's mad powerful, and Hyperion and some of these other guys. And for me, Superman is more of a guy that does, like Lois Lane coined him, Superman, like doing super things and saving people. And that's the key right there for me, not his abilities.
100%. It's actually one of the reasons I actually liked, again, there are parts of Superman Returns that I think are underrated. And I think one of the choices that's interesting is the final feat, where he effectively lifts a kryptonite-infused island to save Metropolis. And I did crazy. Like the idea of him, yes, in pain, losing some of his power, but fighting through that it not be like an instant drain of all, that he could actually will himself to still be super enough to save the day. I liked where they went with that, to kind of create that like will over skill type of, idea. And, it wasn't perfectly executed, but I was like, I see what you're thinking there when you try to put him in that situation.
For me, kryptonite being his weakness, I found it a little bit over the top, because he was practically lifting a whole bunch of kryptonite that he's vulnerable. He gets sick because of it. I remember, and I think in the animated series, or in that same World's Finest, he put out like a pouch or a nugget, and he's weak.
And he's like, yeah, I get it. Yeah. When they
know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's where Batman's like, hey, Joker's got a whole bunch of this, and he tosses it. Exactly. He tosses it to him, but he has to like put it in the wine glass or whatever. Yeah.
So in Superman Returns, that to me was a little bit, I don't know. I didn't buy it. I would say.
So they went too far in your mind.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah.
So interesting. Like I said, I just like the idea though that he could fight through it for a limited time, because he does effectively die in that scene, like die, quote unquote, right? Because the kryptonite's in him and that sort of stuff. But so we'll see what Gunn does with that. We know kryptonite features in when he's imprisoned. We don't know if it features beyond that yet. So we'll see. The other thing, Superman, before we leave Superman, you can find it in our archives. We talked about this. The hate that's out there for this project. And we knew that there was one, we did that show about them, shaking hands and hugging it out and what that was really about and the politics of it. And Variety runs a story where Reddit, the Snyderverse Reddit, is alive and well. And they are saying, quote, stand up and fight for the Snyderverse on July 11th. Fight for for our Snyderverse on imposter Superman Day. And they're talking, there's literally like a manifesto about posting spoilers everywhere because people are less likely to see the movie, leaving bad ratings on as many review sites as possible, reserving tickets online but not completing the purchase. And James Gunn, of course, takes the high road and he says, I think we will survive. I'm not sure the 8 people that listen to that guy are going to impact the course of events. But then he sort of says, like, it's good to kind of have a discourse. He's like, I don't mind it. I think you don't want to have every single person rooting for you. We knew this was coming.
I mean, to me, when it comes to movies and this type of stuff, not everybody, you'll have people rooting against you or won't like the movie, period. And this is one of those things that regardless of if Henry Cavill's movie never came out, this would be one that people will look at and see whether or not they like the Superman or not. But yeah, the hate is out there for those individuals that want to sort of sabotage this movie. I mean, I was thinking about it. I was like, that's why freedom of speech is so great, because now you can discern who to talk to and who not to talk to. Who are the smart ones and who aren't. Let them talk so you can hear what they're saying, so you can decide for yourself, this isn't a conversation I need to have and I don't want to involve myself in it. But
we knew this was going to happen. We predicted this months ago. It 100% is why Gunn and Snyder, Gunn was dropping Snyder stuff. I asked him about the trunks. Here we are. Here's my good friend Zach. Like, this was all about kissing the babies and handing out lollipops and all that sort of stuff. But we knew this was going to happen. I have no time for this. The point of movies and pop culture is for people to have an opinion and consume it and critique it. That's absolutely fine. And actively rooting against and trying to submarine a project and like screwing with people's ticket purchases, I have zero time for that. Zero.
Like we're about to do now, people got to move on. Just move. It's over, yo. The DCU is over. Henry Cavill's not coming back. It is over. Zack Snyder's not coming back. It is over. What do you want?
That's what I mean. It's like, it feels like this thing of this small group of people. Well, not small. The movies made some money, but they were disappointing commercially. What do you want me to tell you? That's not an opinion. That's not a hate-filled comment. It's numbers. The movie cost X. It made Y. Y was not that much greater than X to where you could say we should keep going with this. The broader masses spoke and said, no, not good enough. That's why we don't have that anymore. It's not because of regime change. And it's not because like Henry Cavill was bad at his job. That's not what it's about. It's just like the way this was constructed, not enough people cared enough to go see it, and the people who went to see it told their friends, nah, you can pass, you can wait. Like, so you know what, like, that's fine. And I don't have any problem with someone who some days says like Man of Steel is still my favorite Superman. That's a take. I like Man of Steel. I like it more than Pablo does. It's not my favorite Superman, but I like it more than Pablo does. But to then go out and be like, I'm going to do everything in my power to prevent any other rendition of Superman from seeing the light of day, let alone having success, that's hideous. Like, it's hideous.
The universe has judged you. You asked it for a prize, and it told you no. You failed.
Because it's like, it's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It is, but we knew
What
it was
else
out
did
there.
James Gunn?
Okay, let's go to Batman, because Pablo said this before, and he's so right. It's like these conversations go along to a point, and the second Batman's name shows up in anyone's mouth, the conversation changes. It changes dramatically. So let's talk about DCU Batman first.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of questions about DCU Batman. And I think you hit on it. James Gunn feels like he's playing defense about Batman before Batman has even appeared. So, a number of quotes. I'm going to try to distill it down.
Okay.
First off, James Gunn is claiming he's not the writer of Batman.
He lies. He lies.
But he then says he basically is supervising the writing of Batman. It's like, James, stop. Man, stop. Like, we know what you're doing. So, but he says Batman has to have a reason for existing, right? So Batman can't just be, we're making a Batman movie because Batman's the biggest character in all of Warner Brothers. Look at that. He just drops that in there. It's true, but he just drops it in there. Batman's the biggest character, which he is. But because there's a need for him in the DCU and a need that he's not the same as Matt's Batman. He's not, here we go. He's not a campy Batman. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in funny, campy Batman, really. So we're dealing with that. And now keep this in mind. This is after he says, I'm not the writer. I think I have a way in. I'm just dealing with the writer to make sure we can make that a reality, end quote. He's writing Batman. Like, what are you talking about?
It's like, why even listen? If you come to me and you're telling me I'm writing a campy, the internet will come for you. If you start saying stuff like that, I don't even know why you have to say that.
Adam West gifts everywhere.
It's like, why would you even say that, Who's asking for that? Granted, because it's you that's doing it. You think you have to say that because everybody knows your MO.
That's what I mean. He's playing defense. That's like a preemptive defense. He's like, everyone assumes if it's him shepherding it, it's going to be a little goofy. It's going to be more about humor. It's going to be lighter. It's going to be wackier. He's already trying to diffuse that, and we don't even have anything on the board other than Brave and the Bold maybe happening. It kind of let me know, like, I don't want to say it's getting to him, but that, like, he's really hyper aware of his own reputation when it comes to this character.
Yeah. There was also this, I don't know if you have that on your list, but he sort of confirmed that this dude is not going to come into the DCU, right? Pattinson's Batman.
Oh yeah, that's a different quote. Reeves' Batman is a different section. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he takes a real shot at that whole that whole thing.
But I don't understand. I mean, listen. I get James Gunn. If he's asked about it, he's going to talk about it. But there shouldn't be this tiptoeing about talking about Batman. We know that you're going to bring Batman. Because why? Because you have to bring Batman. You know why? Because if you don't, people are going to be asking, "Where's Batman?"
They're already asking.
So obviously you have to mention him when he was having the conversation, I think, with Michael Rosenbaum about Batman and him showing up in Creature Commandos. He just wanted a silhouette. And look what the silhouette did. Mm-hmm. No more talk about Superman, all Batman.
Yeah. People are dissecting
he has to be
his
careful.
Physique. They're just like, everything. You couldn't even see him. He didn't speak. It was just like, people were just like, all about it.
What's next?
I just want to reemphasize to people. I think I have a way in. I'm just dealing with the writer to make sure that we can make that a reality. If you have any doubt whose Batman this is going to be, I don't care whose name is the lead screenwriter. I don't care who's the screenplay writer. That quote is the one. It's James Gunn's show. It's James Gunn's Batman. And I don't blame him one bit. This is his one shot at running this universe. You think you're going to let somebody else take Batman from you?
Apparently, Muschietti has first dibs at looking at the script when it's done.
We'll see. I did want to throw one other Gunn quote about Batman that you sent to me, which I thought was mind-boggling and weird. Quote, I'm just going to put, every single Batman story has been told, end quote.
It's stuff like this
that gives me trust issues.
Saying every single... James, I know you're a master of words because you're a writer. How can you say every single Batman story has been told? Are you referring to all the stories that have been told in animated or live action, both together? What is it that you're referring to that every single Batman has been told? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to create your own story and forget about what has been done in the past to create your own thing? Perhaps, I don't know. But don't say stuff like every single Batman story has been told. Are you kidding me? And he says having so much of him out there can also make it. Batman is not boring unless you make him boring.
Correct. It is an odd prelude to the discussion. Let's put it that way. I did not expect that our lead of the DCU Batman conversation, once James Gunn got on the road, would focus on him trying to fend off before it even happened that it would be funny or campy, and then him almost trying to say that like somehow Batman is an impossible character to write because there's been like an overexposure of Batman.
What are you talking about?
Like, I don't get it. Like, like there's no richer text in comics than Batman and his stories and his rogues. Like, I mean, if you want, the only aspect of Batman that I would say, yes, we're done with is his parents getting shot. That we don't need to ever see again. We're good. But the character of Batman, I mean, you and I have talked about it with our Pats and all these versions. Like, we go the other way. We still don't think anyone has ever reached the like in live action, the way Batman lives in the pages. We don't think it's ever happened. So I don't know what he's talking about. I really don't. I'm like, I do not.
Oh, man.
But I did not expect this turn.
Nah.
And then, of course, there's the Reeves Batman. Okay, so let's bring in, speaking of overexposure of Batman, okay, 2 points on this. He went very cheeky on a fan who claimed that all fans want Robert Pattinson's Batman to become the DCU Batman. To which James Gunn said, I think all is pushing it.
And it is.
It is.
And it is. I've been saying from Jump Street, I don't want Pattinson's joining this. That's Matt Reeves joining. Let Matt Reeves do what he needs to do, just like you let Chris Nolan did what he needed to do.
Yeah.
Give him that respect. Let him finish his vision, and that's it. And then we move on.
My point has never been that it should happen. The only reason I've left the door open is the combination of if somehow Batman 2 makes ungodly amounts of money and David Zaslav makes that decision for James Gunn. That has been the only reason I leave that open. But there's no creative world where I think James Gunn, if left to his own devices, would choose Robert Pattinson to be his Batman. Batman is also unique in the annals of superhero characters because there are rich stories about him at every age. It's fine.
You know what? Like, if they ever did a series of like Bruce Wayne before he becomes Batman, I want the years of him training to be a fighter. Like two or three seasons of him learning to fight, transcending, and getting better. Well, that would be dope.
It's such an appropriate comment because we're going to talk. We have a different show coming up about Batman Begins, and it's not exactly what you're talking about, but the build up to his introduction in the suit, we'll go into the time machine, was a highly controversial move by Christopher Nolan, and I think it's actually one of the better things about that movie. But you're right. This is the point. Between Bruce Wayne and Batman, the alter ego, at any age, you can tell a compelling story. So don't tell me that like Robert Pattinson somehow crowds out a well-constructed DCU Batman. It doesn't. Like, it just doesn't. And I'm not concerned. Oh, man. So then, okay, the Matt Reeves, the Batman 2 getting canceled, Matt Reeves getting taken off the project. James Gunn finally seeming fed up with it. It's not canceled. We don't have a script. Matt is slow. Let him take his time. Let him do what he's doing. God, people are mean. Let him do his thing, man. End quote.
You calling him slow And we know how slow it is. You don't even have to point it out. We know he's slow with it. You don't got to point it out.
They called you slow! How dare you call me that?
Hey, homie, you still here? Boy, you are slow.
This has been a discussion between us for some time now because of James, because of all of this, because of everybody wondering who Batman, you're building a DCU, Batman is always the top of the conversation. Regardless of Superman, Wonder Man, yeah, Batman. Who's going to be Batman? That's what we want to know. Because Batman is that dude. Michael Keaton, for me, is still, Brian, the best Batman. And he was smart in that because he figured out the Joker's thing, right? The chemistry and all that other stuff.
Kevin Conroy that's the closest. It's never been done in live action. He's the closest. Yeah. He's the closest.
Yes.
Because he's got the suave, he's got the detective, he has the fighting skills, he has the humanity, he has the ladies' man side. That is the close. I mean, and it does. That's why I scratch my head when I hear these other comments about how like Batman is overplayed or overly mined, and I'm like, a live action version honoring that kind of portrayal has never been done, and it's sitting right there. So at any rate, James Gunn also had more to say about the Matt Reeves verse. Now this one is a little more gray area, and I think this is the closest he gets to actually talking about what's going on. So someone finally asked him, what are the rules about crossing characters over, or you using the same character in DCU that Matt Reeves has already used in his verse? To which he very diplomatically says, we take everything into account, but there's no die hard rule, end quote. I maintain that is sort of one of the things getting sorted out right now, that they are
trying to figure out,
debating
about.
Because I would agree on some level, depending on the timing, that while we can definitely withstand having two different Batman at the same time. If they both want to use Mr. Freeze, I don't know that I want to see both Mr. Freezes in films 6 months apart.
That's the thing. It's like Matt Reeves did something dope. And I think he's perhaps by this time already has heard all the negative stuff that people have said, and not negative, I guess the critiques of his first one, and perhaps he might level up on this next one. If I'm James Gunn, it's like, damn man, I gotta be my Batman has to be a little bit different, but better. I can't. Matt Reeves, everybody can't be wanting Matt Reeves, and my joint is just like on the side. You know what I'm saying? I gotta outdo him. I'm sorry. I gotta outdo him, especially if I'm building this universe where who cares who's Plastic Man or who cares who's Hulk? We don't care about it. If Batman fails, I'm sorry. I don't care about none of it.
Yeah, no. 100%.
So there's a lot because Matt Reeves can come out with, I'm telling you, man, like you said, if his next Batman does gangbusters and everybody's going crazy because of what he did, James Gunn has a problem, yo.
This is why I keep saying, like, at the end of the day, the almighty dollar talks. And so I have to ask you a question. I was thinking more about this. If we put James Gunn on the polygraph, do you think he actually minds delays in Batman 2? Or do you think he roots for them because it gives him more time to get his Batman out first?
I think he doesn't mind the delays because it puts more emphasis on whether or not we continue with Matt Reeves' verse or we end it at 2. Like we have speculated that it could possibly happen that they just do the Batman 2 and they sort of find an ending, because we can't have Batman 3 come out in another 5. How long has it been since the first one?
Well, it's going to wind up being, if they're on time, it's going to wind up being 5.5 years.
That's too long. To wait for Batman 3?
But it was projected to be 3, right? So if we look at the original release date, it was 3, which is a very normal gap, and 5.5 is pretty long. But to your point, to what we're saying here, James Gunn might be a team player, and they want to make money at the end of the day. But as a creator, you can't tell me he doesn't want to get his Batman out first. Because the best case scenario for him is he successfully shepherds, casts a Batman that delivers $800 million to $1 billion that everyone likes, because then it doesn't matter what Matt Reeves' Batman 2 does. He's secure. The risk is that he doesn't get there first. Reeves gets his project out, crushes it, and everyone's sitting there being like, how are you going to possibly come after that? And his risk is that his boss is like, we can't wait. This guy's the moneymaker. This guy's going to be Batman, Robert Pattinson. That's the risk. And if you tell me there's no chance Zaslav would do that, you crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, he would. He would be like, I don't want to wait anymore. I mean, unless you say Alan Richardson's my Batman, then I say, hey, you say Alan Richardson is Batman.
I get it, but I'm just saying he's going to look at the numbers and he's going to say, I'm just saying, if it's got to be a big number, right? If it's 770 again, James Gunn is in the clear. But if it does like 1.4, if it does 1.5, I'm telling you, if it does that and people are like, listen, man, Robert Pattinson probably won't get nominated for an Oscar, but he should. Like, if that's the talk, David Zaslav is going to have a conversation where he's like, yo, James, I get it, but like, we got to keep this guy in the role. And that's all there is to it. Like, that conversation can happen. And so James Gunn, I do think there is a bit of a foot race here internally. And there's a weird part of me that's like, James Gunn getting into some kind of creative back and forth with Matt Reeves to stall that project is actually self-interested.
Yeah, it's a dilemma that I would certainly, if I was James Gunn, be worried about. But if I was James Gunn, I already would have been making the calls already. Yo, Alan, what's up? Let's do this. I mean, I wouldn't worry too much. I wouldn't worry after that.
They should open. I mean, again, Chalamet said he wouldn't do superhero movies, but like the second they announced Brave and the Bold, I'm like, those are the two guys that they could do it, and they'd have buzz, and like they would have hype.
That is what gets you out of that state of worry if you have those two guys on the cast, Alan Richardson and Timothy Chalamet. There's just no way that you lose unless you do
then I think, yes,
goofiness, right? But if you got those two guys,
Chalamet.
That's why you can't do new.
Yeah, but
you
that's
can't
also
do
why,
new
like,
guys.
I agree. Chalamet is a favorite son of WB, right? Because the Dune franchise lives at the studio. He did Wonka for the studio, right? That's the other reason. It's like, if you get that guy to do the thing he said he would never do, if you get him to play Robin, David Zaslav will not touch your project because that's their boy. And they won't. He's like the top whatever buzzy actor of 35 and under. They're not going to touch it. So that's why I think, like, tactically, the way they've played this, I get it. He said he wouldn't do it, so that's part of the challenge. But I just have this feeling of like James Gunn is like sort of rooting for Matt Reeves' project, but sort of doesn't mind if it takes 10 years for it to come out because he would rather get his ducks in a row and not have to deal with the RPAT's question at any point. Anyway, that's all stuff that was Batman related.
But let's just keep this in mind. There will be an end credit scene. There may be some surprises. Regardless, and then there's supposed to be some big name that's supposed to show up at the end of Peacemaker. I don't know. If there is this is a double-edged sword in the sense that if there's no mention of Batman or no Easter egg of Batman, which I think it will be, but if there isn't, people are going to be asking, where's Batman?
Yeah, I think so.
And if you do have some Easter eggs of Batman, who's your Batman? When is Batman coming out? You're screwed in your way, yo.
I get it. I just don't think you can have... But I don't think you can have enough the kind of world building that James Gunn is trying to do in Superman and then have no reference at all to Wayne Enterprises, to Gotham, to anything. I think that looks really weird with the amount of stuff that he's put into this movie.
Time is running out for James Gunn to make an announcement because what did he say? Zaslav. Who are the pillars?
Yep.
Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Supergirl, whatever,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And so getting Batman on the board is still more important than getting Wonder Woman on the board.
Yeah.
It is. And Gunn kind of says that, right? He says they're both priorities, but you can kind of feel it that he's sort of like, now he says, interestingly, he thinks Wonder Woman is easier. He says, I think it's actually easier because there haven't been so many infinite portrayals of Wonder Woman, not in movies, but really anywhere. So he's kind of claiming that it's easier for them to find a new Wonder Woman and find a new take on the character. But I think, listen, we go back to our shows about the success, the money, like the reliability of characters. Like nobody compares to Batman. Superman doesn't compare to Batman. I mean, like we're talking about Superman box office. We're optimistic, but let's be frank. Superman at the box office has not been a reliable money-making character, period.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah. Yeah. What else?
We got our Clayface. And then we got something that I thought was one of the coolest things I had read about a live action superhero project or comic book project in a long time. So our winner, sort of a relative unknown, and I don't mind it. Welsh actor Tom Rees-Harries is Clayface. You can find a picture. Very boyish looking, blonde. So he did beat out Jack
Was he on the
O'Connell.
list?
He was not on the original list, but he beat out Jack O'Connell from Sinners, George McKay from 1917, Tom Blythe from Hunger Games. James Watkins is the director. Now, we do have these questions about the script, like Mike Flanagan's original script. How much is it being rewritten? But word comes down that Flanagan's script is heavily inspired by Feet of Clay, the episodes that introduced Clayface in Batman, the animated series. That's what we're talking about.
Praise Jesus!
There's nothing to say there. Just looking forward to seeing that. I've been looking forward to seeing this since it was announced, and it's in a genre that they were sort of aiming at. It makes perfect sense, and hopefully at the end of Clayface, you ask the question. This is what, or you not the question, or the comment or statement that this is what Batman has to contend with.
So let's think about that for a second. So we're getting a $30 to $40 million horror movie, R-rated, about a Batman villain where they are basically taking the animated series episodes and adapting that into a screenplay. How long have we asked for something like this, where they basically go to the classics of animated and say, you know what, those guys did it right? And can we translate? Can we update? And obviously, in this case, they're making it more gothic. They're making it darker, right? They're taking the genre to horror, which is Flanagan's specialty. But the inspiration is something that was great in animated. So in that story, as we've talked about, the character is Matt Hagen, an actor, a struggling actor who becomes disfigured in a car crash, gets mixed up with a crime boss who offers him an experimental face cream that allows him to fix his face in exchange for doing some questionable jobs for the crime boss.
It was
Daggett. So he descends into the life of crime. Daggett's henchmen eventually trap him into a vat of the substance, thinking they've killed him. Instead, he mutates and sets out for revenge. I have no notes. Just give me this movie. I have no notes.
Let me see it. I want to see it.
So James Gunn. Now, here's a little tidbit about the casting. I just want to throw this in there because I didn't think this was. I thought this was an interesting little factoid. He said, "Quote: After a long and incredibly exhaustive search, we finally have our DCU Clayface in Tom Rees-Harries. But drumroll, Matt Reeves and I were blown away by this guy. Can't wait for you to see him on film." End quote.
Like I would expect them to do, especially something new like this. They would. He must have read for it, and they loved it, and he's the guy. But if that is the process, then I don't mind it.
I just thought it was interesting. Matt Reeves was in the room for the casting, the Elseworlds guy, for the casting of the DCU Clayface. I think it's interesting that Gunn chose to highlight that Matt Reeves actually was part of the vetting process for this. That just sort of caught my attention with all we're talking about here about Batman this and is it a rivalry? Like what's going on? interesting to me that Reeves was present seemingly for this process. But I think you and I are always sniffing around like hits, sleeper hit. This is a sleeper hit.
Yeah.
I think this is going to work.
Me too.
I really do. I think it's going to be everything that Sony failed to do with Sinister Six.
This is definitely. And my hope is that they don't go crazy and do like Clayface 2 and stuff like that when it makes money, because this is going to make money. You know, the hope is that they don't go crazy.
Doesn't need much, but I mean, this is not a direct comp. But if you need like the example of how efficient horror can be, like look at like Final Destination Bloodlines, right? Simple story, been around for 25 years. Now they're doing the children of the original. They bring it back. Highest grossing movie in the franchise 25 years later. $100 million US, no sweat. Like you budget these at 30 to 40, you only need like 150, 180, 200 to call it a win. And if you do it well, you're going to get a lot more than that. We've seen that often where some of these movies can really get going if they become eventized. So there's real potential here. I'm excited for it. I am legitimately excited for it. 2 other James Gunn notes for you. Do you buy this? Quote from him. Someone asked him about death in the DCU because obviously Marvel's been doing a lot of like who's coming back, all that sort of stuff. Quote, James Gunn. Well, I wouldn't mind using the Lazarus Pit in a story.
Red Hood.
But it would have to be part of the story itself. I won't be killing major characters just to pop them in the old Lazarus Pit so it can be alive again. What backfires more is people believing there are no stakes and death doesn't mean anything. In the DCU, dead is dead. End of quote. You buy it?
Unless it's the Red Hood, yeah. Unless it's Jason Todd, yeah. I buy it. Unless it's Superman, that's a Superman. I don't think they're going to do that. But, yeah. If people like Barry Allen or who was it, Wally West in that one, because there's a death. One of the Flashes die, right? I want to know.
In which one? In the comics or in the Flash movie?
In the comics.
Oh, that I don't know. I don't know Flash comics that well, so.
Let us know in the comment section below if you know any of the characters that has perished and never came back. But yeah, man, I think that's the right call.
I think it is. I just hope it's on the level. I mean, I realize he's leaving the out with the Lazarus Pit as it is, but like, I do hope it's on the level. It's one of those comments that I'm like, that's big talk. It's big talk right there. Until you get, until the day you get,
he's been talking big.
I'm saying until the day you get an epic performance from someone in a script that kills them off, and people are like, "Man, what'd be great is that person had a couple more." You know what I mean? Like those are the kinds of things that I get suspicious of a little bit because things can tend to change there. And his last comment, because he talk about enough comments here, talked a little bit about his old shop, talked about Marvel, and basically, he didn't really break new ground. But he basically went hard after Disney Plus and kind of was saying the mandates from the streaming service, quote, killed Marvel. And it wasn't fair and it wasn't right. And he's just saying, we don't have the mandate at DC to have a certain amount of shows and movies a year. So we're going to put out everything we think is of the highest quality. We're obviously going to do some good things and some not so good things, but hopefully on average, everything will be as high quality as possible. End quote.
I mean, we've spoken about this in the past that, during the Bob Chapek era, there was a mandate, and we attribute that to the quality or the lack thereof because of it. So I think he's just not necessarily confirming. We knew this. So it's not new news to us, I would say.
It's one of those things.
He also said something about, and I don't know if this refers to Marvel, but movies in general, about that it's killing the movie industry, making movies without scripts being done and things of that nature. I don't know if you've ever seen Netflix, The Movies That Make Us.
You like that? I have not seen it. You're a big proponent of that, so
check it out. Watch the Die Hard episode. When they were filming that, they pretty much had no script and were writing every day and changing things. They had people just as fast as James Gunn writing, and they made them. Him saying that, I understand he's probably trying to set a new standard in the movie making business, but it is what it is, and this has been happening for years, and movies haven't gone away. So him saying that is meaningless to me anyway.
You know, and again, there's not one size that fits all, right? So if you know anything, if you listen to the Light the Fuse Mission Impossible podcast, you know that that's a formula they've used forever. Macquarie basically says they build the set pieces and then they fill in the story day by day on set around that. Now, we just got done with Final Reckoning and Dead Reckoning, and those were, Final Reckoning in particular was kind of a disappointment storytelling wise, but Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, Fallout, they crushed it on those, doing the same approach of having effectively no script and just having the set pieces. So it works for them. It can work for them. We know from Rise of the MCU, they were doing that as far back as Iron Man 1 when Downey was coming in every day and rewriting Tony Stark, and it somehow worked. So this is like you, as much as we hear stuff like the Frank Grillo stuff we talked about last time, you can't blame Marvel for saying we're going to do this route because they were minting money using that philosophy. Minting money, as we said. Half of their movies were making $1 billion and they had no finished script on set when they were shooting. So good luck telling them, oh, no, you better finish your scripts before you shoot. What I do think James Gunn is doing with this is there is a competition for talent. I do think what he's doing is more talent friendly.
Got it.
I do think most actors, by and large, respond better if they're handed a script that is close to the final script, so that when they prepare, the performance that they give is the one that actually makes it to the screen. That I actually think might be underneath this, is saying we got a big MCU over here, we got Sony, whatever they're doing, we got all these competing places to work for this talent. Come work for us, because here, what you get sent is what you perform. That's, I think, what he's trying to do.
That makes sense. I think he's trying to create an environment where things will run a little bit smoother. And I get that. And that's fine.
Which, to your point, smoother. Smoother is code for cheaper. I mean, think about it, right? Like if you're trying to do one shoot with minimal pickups, certainly helps to have a cohesive script. If you're having to rewrite, you write yourself into a corner, you're having to reshoot all the time, well, that's when budgets get to 350, 400 million and you're screwed.
Yeah.
So a lot of James Gunn this week, but
how long we have till Superman? 3 weeks or something like that?
Yeah, we do. And the competition is coming because the F1 hype is real, Pablo. The reviews are phenomenal. I listened to a talk of the guy who does screenings. Like he runs the screenings.
Okay.
And he talked about the highest testing screenings basically of the last however many years. And he said Top Gun Maverick was the highest tested movie before it came out until F1.
Wow.
So I don't know how universal the appeal is of the content, but this is a movie that I think will definitely will gather more box office steam than was initially projected. So right here, you now have are they going to threaten Superman money and no, they're not. But are there going to be a few more of those same people who now are like, I might need to see this? You know, like that's happening, right? And that's happening 2 weeks, 3 weeks before Superman. Yeah, that's the point. And like this has always been rested on like, if these movies are good, can you force people to say, I gotta see this? And visually, we know this thing is spectacular. So it's like, if it's now good, like if it's actually crowd pleasing, entertaining, well made, more people are going to have to go see that a couple weeks before Superman.
Yeah.
I mean, I got my tickets. Like I'm going to see it early. I'm seeing it next Monday. It comes out officially Friday. I'm seeing it next Monday.
Oh, wow. I'll see it when I come back.
So.
But yeah, that's it for the DCU update. James Gunn special episode. He had a lot to say.
We've done Kevin Feige episodes. This is like that.
Oh,
Kevin
yeah,
Feige
true.
speaks,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
listen. James Gunn speaks, we listen.
Yeah. So this is James Gunn's episode. He said some interesting things and some not some confusing things as well. Say whatever you want to say, James. When it's time to deliver, you better deliver. That's all we gotta say. But yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of everything that James Gunn has said, especially about the every single Batman story. That one has me going like spinning. When I read this, I went into the comment section, and when I was reading, I was like, yes, everybody was saying the same thing. Everybody was saying this. There was one dude that said, just tell me you haven't read Batman comic books without telling me that you haven't read Batman comic books.
That's like the you ever hear that story about how they found out like Jamarcus Russell was going to be a bust, where like they gave him the film study to take home and review, and then he'd come back the next day and be like, oh yeah, I reviewed it, and they were giving him empty tapes so that they found out he wasn't doing any of the work. This just feels like that. It's like you're not doing the. Are you not doing the reading? We're gonna test. We got to test your knowledge here. We think of you as the ultimate nerd and the ultimate geek, but like, we sure?
Yeah.
We sure he's doing the reading?
Oh man. Yeah, remember to hit that like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell, and thank you guys for commenting in the comment section below. Shout outs to Black Rock. Shout outs to Ric Flair. Shout out. Who else, Brian? I gotta create that list, man, so I can.
We got some new folks commenting. I appreciate the new folks who've been commenting about everything from box office to character portrayals, things they want to see. Like that's the awesome thing, is getting new takes, right? I mean, we put ours out there, but it's for discussion. And so it's been really nice to see some new folks just chiming in, who, including several who are indicating they've watched a number of the shows for a while and finally found something they wanted to kind of weigh in on, which is awesome. So, and we appreciate the regulars who comment, all the time. So
definitely. So yeah, hit that like and subscribe. We'll see you next time on the Nerd Gen Report.